after the coaching segment we did about who's recruiting well. And right now it's kind of an interesting time as you go into the summer, into the next year. And Garrett, hop on because you're a recruiting guy on this as well. But there are some interesting teams nationally, like Texas Tech, Northwestern, even Baylor, who's not normally high up in the recruiting rankings, really kind of rolling through and doing well nationally right now. Now, is that the same come February? I don't know.
I mean, I think it's going to take some time. I feel like right now Baylor's in a good position. Texas Tech, I feel, is kind of skewed. When you look at Texas Tech's 2023 class, you have 20 commits. You're obviously first in the Big 12. You're ranked in the top 10 in the nation as well. I think that's one of those where in a couple of months you're going to look back and the Red Raiders are going to be further down the list. Obviously, your Bamas are going to rise. Even keep an eye on Miami. I think that what Mario Cristobal can do down there with NIL can really lead that 2023 class as well. But right now, it's hard to really put a lot of stock into what you're looking at when you see these 2023 classes, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the top 10. Notre Dame's number 1. They got 13 commits. And then Tech 2, they got 20. I mean, they got 7 more than the closest one. I mean, the rest of the top 10, 12, 10, 11, 8. 14 for Northwestern. Why is Northwestern in the top 10? Because they got 14 commits at this point. So there's a lot of weight placed on the number of guys. And then the ones who have lower numbers but are still relatively ranked high, who only have 6 or 7, well, that's the teams that have like the high per player average. So, you kind of look at both. If a team has a lower amount of commits but they're highly ranked, then they're getting bang for their buck per player. If a team's ranked high and they've got 20 commits, well, 20 is part of the reason why they're ranked so high. So it can be a little bit misleading, but, not to deny in any way that Tech's, doing a great job in recruiting and filling up their class. I think the new rules benefit them. We might see them just nudge a few guys out the door to, add some more scholarships if you're going to have this whole no cap thing to where as long as you stay at 85, I think we'll see. And I think Max Olson even wrote an article the other day about how coaches are now finding ways to empty their rosters and basically push players into the transfer portal. So, that's somewhat of an unintended consequence. It's great for the coaches who just want to, get over that recruiting bust and replace that guy with somebody who can help them easier. But it's another thing where I don't think the players or those who are basically looking out for the best interests of players, I don't think they realize that every move being made is not exactly in their favor. And, that scholarship, as much as we talk about, I think it kind of sucks that a player could sign somewhere and then a year later be joining another team in the conference. I hate that. But at the same time, they're going to probably reach a point where you sign that scholarship, and that scholarship, even though it never technically was 4-year guaranteed no matter what you're, but close enough to it, that's not going to be as much of a guarantee anymore, because now the transfer portal and just the new rules of moving around and all that, you're going to see a lot of coaches that take the scholarship cap off they're not going to be as patient. They talk about players not having patience. I don't think the coaches are going to be as patient either, at least in some cases. And they're going to say, well, this guy's clearly, he's going to take too long. Boom, get him out of here. We got to replace him with somebody else.
Yeah, well, and part of the other thing is that with the way that coaching – the coaching carousel is spinning so fast right now, and you've got coaches that are going to, hot places really quickly. So let's just use Lincoln Riley to USC, Brent Venables to Oklahoma. And now Brent Venables wasn't really in the position where he could shove a lot of guys off the roster right away because a lot of them left, but Lincoln Riley was, he absolutely was. And so he can go to USC and be like, oh, look, things are changing. You're not a guy we would have recruited. You're best getting the transfer portal, and he can recruit 40 guys if he wants to. He can transfer in 25 more and completely remake the roster in a whole year. And the kids didn't. That's what I know the transfer portal's for. But you could be sitting there thinking, "Oh, sweet, Lincoln Riley's coming here." Well, if Lincoln Riley doesn't like you, then it didn't matter. If he wouldn't have recruited you in the first place, then especially if you're in a position of where he doesn't feel they have a strong need, like they're a little bit deep there and they can get by without you, see you later. So things can spin not everything is for them. It's not that's why I think that people are saying let's get some just overall bumpers on this thing because it's just a teeter-totter this way and that way. It's not balanced.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, it's just it is what it is. You can't have everything your way. It certainly seemed like that was going to be the case for the players. I mean, most of the decisions being made were all beneficial to them, and yeah, I just don't know that change without slowing down and kind of like taking a breath after some of these changes is really the best course of action, because all of a sudden you're going to look up and it's going to be a pile of unintended consequences, as good as maybe those decisions seemed at the time. But when you add them all together, it's a bit combustible. So, yeah, I mean, the coaches have, everybody talks about these coaches and their contracts, but they also have they might have buyouts, and that prevents some of maybe, getting fired after 1 year or maybe even after 2 years. But there is always that risk that they're on the hot seat as well. So now the rosters basically are, and, that's equal, I guess. I guess we're moving towards equality because the roster spot's as on much ice as a coaching spot is, except for the coaching spot does have that buyout aspect to it normally. But Garrett, do you notice when you're talking to recruits now, is like there any difference in the way that guys are talking about how they're choosing their schools and things like that because of NIL? Like, do you see anything that's at least noticeable in that regard?
That's a question I've been asking a lot of recruits is when you're looking at your schools, how much of an importance or how much role does NIL play in that? Like, are you looking for a school as far as I want to go, all right, for Baylor, for example, right? Like, we know Baylor isn't ever really going to match NIL on the grand scheme with your Bamas and your A&Ms and them. But if you do come to Baylor, while you don't get that NIL money, you're going to get developed, right? Like, I think Coach Arena and this staff have proven that they could develop. So it's a matter of balancing that if you're an athlete. Like, do you want to go somewhere and full intentional say, I want to be in the NFL. I know I need to work on this, and I'll put the money to the side right now. If I get it, great. But I think that's really kind of a fine line, and it really depends on the type of player as well. It's kind of a tricky, slippery slope. But regarding the players I talk to, for 9 times out of 10, NIL hasn't been that big of a focal point at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of the boogeyman in the media. But as we kind of have to remind ourselves, we're talking about, 10 or 15 players that have really gotten some crazy deal that we're aware of? I mean, It's not like it's everybody on every roster by any means, not even close to that. So, yeah, I'm just curious of like how much, because you used to talk to a recruit and be like, I like the uniforms. I like the facilities. I like the coach. And now I just wonder how often it's like, I don't care about any of that. Like, how much money am I going to get? Let's just cut to the chase. And I think for maybe some of the top tier blue chip guys, like, it's not that simple, but it is more of a factor than it ever was before. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I think it's going to be one of the things kind of like the transfer portal, where a lot of guys who hop into the transfer portal and expect 25 calls and then they sit there.
Yeah, well, there's some guys that, I mean, just dense decision making because you should have known going in that you were not ever going to have 25. I mean, there's guys getting in that have no business getting into the transfer portal unless they just had absolutely no other choice, and those aren't probably very recognizable names. You know what I mean? Because maybe it was rare. Or maybe they beat the odds and even getting where they were to begin with, and there's some adjustment. I think there's natural adjustment with the transfer portal of guys who were maybe D1 that really should have been D2, or guys who are D2 didn't get noticed but really should have been D1. I think it's really great for at least balancing that out. But yeah, there are some head scratching decisions from guys that it clearly just seems like they're just getting in there because of like the adrenaline rush immediately and the hopes that a bunch of people are going to be calling. But again, it kind of all goes back to, that there's that big group of the NIL type of guys, and then there's that group of really good players, and then there's a whole group that's taking up a lot of space that really have no business being in there, quite frankly.
Yeah. Garrett, do you get the sense when you talk to recruits as well that there's less trepidation about their choice because of the transfer portal?
I mean, I think so, because going into the situation now, like, you can go and say, I want to go to school X, and you go there, and if it doesn't, I think you're more in line to take a risk knowing that if it doesn't work out, you have that option. Whereas in the past, you would have to sit out a year or something. So I think it's something they could take advantage of. But at the same time, I really think it really depends on personality to personality, family, and even kind of going back to the transfer portal. and players going in, I think a lot of that sometimes is outside influences, right?
Yes.
Like even the recruits now, you deal with handlers, private coaches. There's so much information that these guys are getting. And I think a lot of the times like say you commit somewhere and you flip your commitment because of a friend or something. I think it's a lot of bad information, man. And that's the one benefit of the transfer portal. If you are a player who bought into that, and you get into the situation and realize, oh, man, I'm in over my head. This was a bad move. You have that option. That is a nice option, but it's really just a balancing act.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear because, I only talk to recruits when they've committed somewhere and we're here or we're at midway and they're, it's my guy of the week and he's getting recruited. So at that point, I don't know. So, but like it's interesting to see how it is changing and all that, but yeah, Craig, you made a good point earlier about like we're talking about 15 guys with huge deals. Now there might be 15 more who can go get them after they go in and play their way up to it because they're all of a sudden a star. But the ones who you're talking about are what's the kid's name? The Tennessee, the $8 million guy apparently.
I am Eliava or whatever the hell his name. You asked me to name the most difficult name in college football, like Smith. Nico Iamaleava or however you pronounce his name. No disrespect, but yeah, I mean it's changed things. I mean clearly it's changed things, and you adjust or you adapt or die. I mean simple as that. But adapting doesn't have to be. It's all about offering up big money. I think Dave Aranda's finding a unique way to adapt, and a lot of others are as well. And the ones that are having to do that and can't just spend big paychecks again, kind of like the players getting NIL deals. We talk about the same 10 to 15 guys, if it's even that much. But the Jordan Addisons and the Quinn Ewers and those guys. But, like, I don't know, there's like 3,000 other players that are out there that are maybe making like $50 off a local, ad or whatever. So it's not like the nightmare scenario that everybody's made it out to be just because Jordan Addison, Biletnikoff winner, can make, $3 million somewhere. Now, there are levels, like especially in basketball, there's guys making millions before they leave high school. That's a little weird, but I know it's based on potential. So, for the haves, it's a great thing, and then there's a lot of other people that wish they were in that group and maybe don't have as realistic of a view on kind of the way things work, and that's why you see some bad decisions or some bad influences leading guys in the transfer portal thinking it's the best, and it's clearly not maybe the best decision. But to each their own. A lot of different scenarios and factors in play, but it's an interesting balancing act that you have to toy with if you're coaches and players right now.
Roger Dodger on the chat room. All the USC players that Lincoln Riley asked to leave the team were guaranteed their scholarships. Were told they weren't a football scholarship anymore, or they came to the portal.
Max Olson wrote about that. It's a little loophole, yeah.
But even I was using him as an example. I mean, I don't know how many. Like he could have told 3 guys that. I don't know how.
No, I think he told a few.
Yeah, but. Yeah, I mean, how many he did, but I was just using it as an example. If you get a new place, Brian Kelly had to rebuild a whole roster, because a lot of guys were in the portal. A lot of guys, he kind of, told them, like, look at this. Door number 1 is the portal. Door number 2 is the portal. Door number 3 is also the portal. It has many doors. Go there, because that's what LSU brought him in to do, was rebuild that team, soup to nuts. I mean, so. He kind of told them, and then he went in the portal and he's gotten like 12 to 15 guys out of there.
Well, I don't think I don't have a problem with a situation like that where it's a new coach coming in and he's got to find his guys. But if you're somebody who's been there and you're just saying, all right, well, hit the streets because I want to replace you with this other guy, I kind of have a problem with, especially if it's a player who is really put all of everything they had into that university, and just because they're not to the same level as the new guy you're looking at, they get tossed to the wayside. I kind of have more of a problem with that than necessarily a new coach coming in finding the right fits for his system.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be able to run the offense he wants to. If you're running a totally different type of offense or something that's not going to fit, then you got to do what's best for you because you're on a clock. I mean, the moment you take over that job, Brian Kelly's on the clock right now. He might have some security through his contract. He might have a mega buyout, but bottom line is, it doesn't matter about all that. He's got to win and win quickly, and there will only be so much patience for that. So if that means that, hey, the quickest way to winning is to basically get rid of these guys, that's what he's got to do. I mean, it's his team now. Those players he didn't recruit. So again, for all the good, there is some downside for players and for coaches in this scenario. You know, it's not everybody's just an outright winner no matter what. So, yeah, players can now make money, but they can now actually, you know, get pushed off to the side a little bit quicker perhaps as well. And then there's the transfer portal to be a parachute for a lot of those guys. But, yeah, it's an interesting time, that's for sure. Very interesting, and you're going to see a lot of interesting approaches, whether it be Dave Aranda's, that's, quite different from, let's say, like a Lane Kiffin's, or, how Brian Kelly does it compared to, how Lincoln Riley does it or whatever. But, the transfer portal and NIL and all that, it's made things spicy. It's made things a lot more interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's certainly a new world. We'll take a break right here a little bit early because